Rev up your engines!
Guess who? Says Scotty, are you as good at stealing cars as you are at fixing them? Well, I never stole a car in my life. I had no reason to. I was a mechanic. I fixed them. I drive other people's cars around. Stealing modern cars would be hard anyways, unless you want to steal the high-tech ones. I have the equipment to do it with. Because you got to be able to program the keyless remote system, so anybody could do it if they really wanted to go through it. But I'm not a thief. I'm not that type of person, so that's not something that I do. I got a friend that ages ago, when he was a teenager, stole cars and then sold them and got drugs. He ended up in jail because he got caught. So not a smart thing to steal cars. There's better things to do in life than stealing things from people to make a living. I mean, it's a big, wide open world. Why bother being a thief? There's other things much more interesting to do than steal things. D-Boss says, guys, what should I do with my 2004 BMW 530i seized transmission? Throw it away. Maybe try pot luck, get a used transmission, put it in and sell the vehicle. Those things are such money pits as they age when the transmission's going out. And that's generally the first thing that goes out. BMW makes pretty good engines. They started out making aircraft engines in World War I. I mean, they were a great engine company, great motorcycle engines too. But their transmissions were always the weak point, especially automatic transmissions, which I'm assuming you're talking about. Now, if it isn't, it's a standard transmission, heck, go get a used one from a salvage yard. They generally last a really long time. But if it's automatic, you got to decide you want to try to get it fixed, if you can get it cheap enough for the used one and sell it, or you just want to sell it as it stands now. It's a 04, so it's not worth all that much money. You don't want to put too much money into it. Hondo Haas, Scotty, I got a 2014 4Runner, 150,000 miles. When I brake at higher speeds on a highway, the ABS system engages even though I'm not braking hard. Master cylinder or something else. Odds are your rotors are somewhat warped. At higher speeds, of course, the tires are spinning faster. And if they're warped, creates little bits of vibration, it's going to confuse the ABS sensors. So odds are your brake rotors are warped. I see that all the time in those things. Now, theoretically, it can be a ton of things. You'd have a sensor that at a certain time is going to act up. But if it only does it at high speeds, the rotors are spinning super fast. So either the rotors are warped or you got a problem in the sensor itself that at higher speeds it starts vibrating, but generally it's going to start vibrating because the rotors are warped. I see that all the time. Jacob Hivley says, what are your thoughts on a 2010 Volvo C70 convertible? Well, at least it's 10 years old. Volvos are endless money pits as they age. They're fun cars to drive. Those things run fine, but realize Volvo's now owned by a Chinese company. They're only going to be making electric cars and hybrid cars. So those cars, they're going to eventually stop making parts for them. They're very expensive to fix as they age. Now, if you're talking about buying one, don't pay that much for it. Because since they're not going to be making them anymore, their value isn't that much. It'll never be a collector's item. But if it's a low enough mileage and you can get it cheap enough, and a guy like me can check it out and say, yeah, it's a decent car, it's not falling apart, and you get it for a low price, it could be a fun thing as a toy. Just don't buy a car like that and think you can drive it every day because it'll fall apart in front of you and bankrupt you. Drake Dragonar says, Scotty, is a 2003 to 9 Toyota 4Runner good first vehicle for under 10,000 bucks? Yeah, if you can find one, if it isn't way too many high mileage on it, those are excellent. Are you sure you want a truck for your first vehicle? Because understand, trucks are big, heavy, and they're not aerodynamic. So they get bad gas mileage in town for sure. Even on the highway, they're not great, but in town, they get horrible gas mileage. Check to see, are you happy with the gas mileage you're going to get with one? If you are, go ahead and buy one. If you aren't, think about getting a Camry instead or a Corolla, because trucks, if you got to have a truck, you want a truck, it's a good truck to get. But make sure you want to get a truck, because I've had people buy them and they say, oh my God, the gas mileage is horrible. I warn them ahead of time. Now, look into that and see if you're happy with that. Joaquin123 says, Scotty, my '08 RAV4, 4 cylinders, 85,000 miles, consumes a quart of oil every 150 miles. No leaks, no smokes, valve sounds. What can it be? Change the PCV valve. Pray that it's a bad PCV valve. I've seen them do that. They cost practically nothing. Put a PCV valve. Now, if it's not that, then you want to do what's called a wet and dry compression test. Take the 4 spark plugs out. Get a compression tester. Crank the engine. See what the 4 compressions are. Then put a teaspoon of oil in each cylinder one at a time and do a wet compression test. If you find the compression goes way up, that means the piston rings are worn out and you're going to have to rebuild the engine. If it doesn't go way up, that means that the valve seals in the engine. If you want to fix it, you're going to have to pull the heads, rebuild the heads, and put new valve seals. Anyway, it's going to be super expensive if it's not a PCV valve. So pray it's just a PCV valve and not the engine wearing out. You only got 85,000 miles. That isn't much. This is kind of surprising for a Toyota RAV4. Mr. Fairplay says, Scotty, my radiator hose came loose and sprayed coolant everywhere, and my '02 Toyota Camry engine is fixable. Should I shell for parts or junk it? It depends what really happened. Now, if the radiator hose was really old and rotten and it blew up, and you replace it and fill it with coolant, and the engine didn't overheat bad, it might start and run perfectly fine. You never know until you put the hose on, fill it up with water, and drive it around. I'll give you a perfect example that happened to me years ago in a Camry. A customer came and the radiator was broken. The plastic top had blown to pieces. And I said, look, I can't analyze anything until I put a radiator in this car. I got one of these aftermarket Chinese ones. It cost me $99, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So I put it in and drove it around. The car ran fine, except it started to overheat. I got my block test liquid machine where you pour the little blue liquid in, and it immediately turned yellow, which meant that the head gasket was blown in the engine. And I told the customer, I said, get rid of the car. And they just got another car and they didn't care about it. You never know what kind of damage was done, so get a hose, put it on, fill it up with coolant, drive it around and see what happens. You never know. Maybe you got lucky and it was just the hose blew, or maybe the head gasket was blowing and it built up so much pressure then it blew the hose. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.